So I will be answering prompt 2, which is explain how experience can both enrich and distort theology. And then there are a couple other follow-up points with that. One way I could think of when it comes to how our experiences can enrich our theology, simply by prayer. I've been a youth pastor for 5 years now, and we've talked multiple times about prayer, and I've seen in the lives of the students moments where things click, specifically like when we talk about prayer. You can hear about it all the time. You can read in the Bible in Ephesians. You can read in the Bible in Colossians about praying without ceasing. Why is it important? How there's peace that we find through prayer and by relying on God and God alone. And it's so easy to hear that and to say, yes, I believe it. But then once you find yourself in a difficult time where prayer is all that you have, it gives a richer and deeper appreciation for prayer. Another example is forgiveness. We see that also in Ephesians when we talk about forgive others as Christ has forgiven you. And just finishing a conflict series I've done with students, we look at how do we forgive others? How do we deal with conflict? How do we enter into those moments with humility? And seeing students who are going through breakups and needing advice on what to do, looking to the Bible. And one thing I always tell students is listen, you can hear the truth and nod your head and smile and say, yes, I believe. But when you're forced in moments to actually do what you say you believe, it really changes things and it really adds a deeper meaning. When it comes to how does our experience distort theology, I think that's more of something people like to harp on than enrich. Because there's always people trying to attack the church. And I've seen this personally in my own life. I've worked at churches that are pastor-ran and churches that are pastor-led and churches that are elder-led. With a church that is pastor-led, I've heard a very famous quote from a very popular pastor who's long been deceased that said anything with more than one head is a freak, referring to elder-led churches. You have to have one decisive leader to make all of the decisions. It's not based in the Bible, but I was always taught and raised, okay, yeah, I believe that. You need one leader. And I've seen in those situations how a pastor in other churches as well, when there is limited accountability, does become a dictator. And it's easy for them to make decisions that aren't for the common good. I've seen that with friends in ministry in their churches. And it begins to twist the way you view theology. And I've also worked at churches that are elder-led. And for me personally, it's hard to go from a church that is pastor-led to elder-led, because I still remember that quote, anything with more than one head is a freak. And so I've seen the politics of the church, and when you have elders who are in disagreement about something, the pastor doesn't have the final say. All the elders have to have a unanimous decision on it, and it makes you wonder, okay, well, who's in charge here? So there's 4 of you in charge. How does that work? And so it's easy to not listen to the parts in Scripture in 1 Peter and 1 John, which talks about elders, or 1 Peter and 1 Timothy, that talks about eldership and why it's important, how elder-led churches are actually very biblical theologically. And so it's easy from my negative experiences with the elder-run church to distort theology and be like, this is stupid, this is dumb. When in reality, what I am doing is exactly what this whole week is about, and the whole book is about, not to allow our experiences to drive our decisions and distort the Bible. The Bible should drive everything that we do. And instead of looking at the Bible and saying, God, this is how you design the church, this is how it should run. We see it in 1 Peter, we see it in 1 Timothy. I have been very quick to be like, no, my experience is bad. So that means like you're wrong in the Bible. That's kind of my natural instinct sometimes, and it's wrong. And so that's an example in my own personal life of why it's not good. And we see in the book with the analogy of the flying saucer. We see Marion Keech, and so she believed these saucers were aliens talking about some flood. And so she had this experience, and she had convinced herself because of this experience that it was real. And so she gets everyone, all of her followers, to Lake City, and they're told December 17th. Apparently that's when the aliens said, we're coming back, and nothing happens. And so she goes, oh no, it's actually the next day, it's December 18th, and it never happens. And so there's this connection in the book, and this analogy that's really meant to describe, while your experience could be valid, maybe she did, maybe Marion saw something, maybe she saw a plane, whatever it was, her experience could have been true, but her experience was not rooted in reality. And so the psychologist Leon Festinger, which it talks about in chapter 6, he says, he refers to this as cognitive dissonance, which is the theory that it describes a feeling of discomfort people experience when they have beliefs, opinions, actions, or knowledge that do not fit well together, and the lengths they go to reduce or eliminate dissonance or inconsistency. And so you see that with this story, that she could have had an experience, but that experience wasn't rooted in reality. And when it comes to the experiences that we have and the conclusions that we draw about the Bible through what we've gone through in life, our experiences can be valid and true, and the way we feel can be valid and true, but we cannot let that drive us and be the root. The Bible has to, Scripture has to, theology has to keep us rooted and grounded in reality. And we also see too, there's this quote about experience. And so although experience has to some degree always been a part of the church's development of theology, it usually comes last. And so that's important. We also see that on the page that talks about the perils of experience in theology, is that your experience is important, but it should come last. Scripture should come first. Theology should come first, not what you experience.